Many of us may be familiar with Neville Goddard or the law of assumption and how this may be used in order to manifest our reality that we desire. Now, for those of you that may not be that familiar with the law of assumption, that's what I'm going to deep dive into today. I'm going to deep dive into my experience with trying to practice the law of assumption, some of my learnings and understandings. So with that, let's get right into it. One of the key teachings that really resonated with me from the book Feeling is the Secret by Neville Goddard is that control of your subconscious mind is accomplished through the control of the ideas and the feelings that you have. And essentially what the law of assumption is that you try to embody the ideas and the feelings associated with the version of reality that you desire. So if you desire vibrant and a healthy version of yourself, someone who is free from disease, free from ailments, then it's to take on the ideas and the feelings of a person that embodies that state of vibrancy and that good health. And when we can do that, you can essentially communicate to the subconscious mind those feelings and those ideas so that it can manifest it into reality. The way Neville looks at it is that he looks at the subconscious mind as the God element, and that essentially creates the reality that we experience in the material world. And this can be done in a number of ways. Now, you could either take on this image and try and live out this throughout your day, or you can try to do a meditative process where when your subconscious mind is most suggestible, like during just rising or just going to bed, during those stages, your subconscious mind, just before you're about to go to sleep, your mind loosens its grip on trying to control the thoughts and the feelings and the rationality aspect, trying to rationalize what you are trying to envision, because it may be that it's very far-fetched for the rational mind to conceptualize or to really take hold of. So during those two stages of the day, your subconscious mind is most suggestible, and you wouldn't have that rational mind trying to constantly sabotage the vision and the ideas and feelings that you are trying to communicate to your subconscious mind. I'm going to share with you 3 reasons why I gave up too soon on the law of assumption. So hopefully you don't fall into those same traps when you're trying to experiment with it. So the first reason is I lacked discipline. I lack discipline to only entertain those feelings that would contribute towards my happiness and the image that I desired. By allowing the negative images, the poor health images, by allowing all those thoughts that were synonymous with the condition that I was experiencing to percolate within my mind, I was not allowing for sufficient amount of thoughts that are ingrained within the happiness and the state of health and vibrancy that I wanted. So that is probably one of the most critical things to be aware of if you're trying to use it, whatever it is, whether it's your health or you're trying to manifest something from a material aspect. Maybe it's trying to move into a state of abundance. It's having that discipline to not let the feelings and the thoughts that are not conducive to that state of being, that are not conducive to your happiness, from infiltrating your mind. And that is something that's really important, and it's going to call for a lot more conscious attention to these feelings and thoughts that you are experiencing, because the mind has a way of sabotaging us when we lack the discipline. The second reason is I didn't have enough persistence. I wasn't very persistent with it. There was no persistent effort in terms of making sure that I go through the visualization and the feeling exercises at least on a daily basis in order for it really to take hold in the subconscious mind. And the third reason is not having patience. And this is a reason many of us fail, especially because we live in this current state of society where we so susceptible to wanting instant gratification, and we often tend to lack patience. And I know I'm very guilty of lacking patience, and this is something that often sabotages us on this path to realizing our desires and goals for our life. So those are the 3 reasons that hopefully can help you prevent you from falling in those same traps if you try to implement this law of assumption in your life. Okay, so with the traps out of the way, let's get into some of my lessons that I'm learning as I'm going through practicing this law of assumption. So I'm still very much in this process. I'm not yet realized all my goals. I'm still trying to visualize myself in this healthy, vibrant form, and it's still very much a work in progress. But these are some of the learnings that I'm going through as part of this process. So the first lesson that I've learned is, if you're generally someone who is struggling to hold on to an image that of a version of your reality that you so much desire. So for example, if you're struggling to hold on to an image of someone who is healthy and is vibrant, this may be because your mind has been sabotaged by your current state of reality. And if you've been experiencing a condition for a prolonged period of time, maybe 10 years, 20 years, you probably even forgot what it felt like to be in a healthy and vibrant state, it can be really difficult to try and visualize a version of yourself and really feel into that state of being that embodies that health and vibrancy. And so if this is the case, it is going to be quite a struggle trying to visualize a version of yourself that is in a state of health and vibrancy. And what I found really helpful if you find yourself in this predicament is to try and think about what would make you happy. Think about the activities that you'd like to do that will light you up, that will light that spark or that fire within you. And maybe it's an activity that you don't have the mobility or the ability to do right now. For example, you used to love baking and cooking and doing all those lovely things in the kitchen. However, now your mobility is restricting you from doing that. So trying to visualize yourself doing those things, making those real nice goodies, and visualizing how you would feel when you are able to do that. Visualizing the happiness and the joy that you get when you observe your family really enjoy that sumptuous meal that you've prepared. Trying to shift into that can help you to allow for this law of assumption to work for you, because now you're shifting your identity and you're trying to look at the activities that you can't do now, but this version of yourself that embodies that state of health and vibrancy can be in a position of accomplishing. Maybe it's running a marathon and right now you're injured or you may not have the mobility to do so, but by visualizing yourself running a marathon, and it's very important that you don't just visualize it, you need to really feel into it. So for example, if you visualizing yourself running a marathon or running a race or whatever activity it is, try and think about those aspects. Like if you were running really fast, you would have the wind that would brush against your skin and you would feel it, and maybe it's your hair that kind of blows back and you can feel the wind against it. It's feeling into it, allowing for that visualization to become so immersive that it takes your emotions along with it for the ride. And that is essentially something that can be so helpful, because now you're struggling to hold on to this image, but you can visualize the activities, you can visualize the things, and maybe it's a feeling. If you're observing it, say for example, if you're watching someone else run and you try and observe the feelings that you would like to have if you were doing the same activity, trying to use those little things as catalysts to try and help you grasp onto a vision that you desire, and really trying to make it as immersive as possible, trying to think about the various different feelings, the feeling of your feet hitting that ground and just lifting off and bouncing into a strong stride. And that is essentially what you are trying to do with this visualization practice, to make it as immersive as you possibly can. It's almost like you're watching a movie and you're totally immersed in it. And one of the key things about this is that you don't want to be the observer. You're not observing yourself when you visualize this, because by observing yourself, you are taking yourself out of it. You are trying to be the person who is enacting the scene. And that is like, you really want to feel into it, because when you visualize it, you are the person doing the activity. You are the person who is the actor, and you are feeling it, through your visualization, through your exercise. You are the person that is feeling the very activity that is performed. So you're not the observer in this instance. And by making these subtle shifts, when you take on this practice, it can make a profound difference in terms of really allowing it to become a part of you, to really start to slowly shift you into recognizing those emotions. And what I found really helpful is that once you start to feel those emotions, try and see if you can then bring that into your day-to-day life. So maybe if you're doing it just in the mornings and in the evenings, try to bring in those emotions whenever you can, because by becoming more familiar with those emotions, with that state of being, and trying to integrate it throughout your day and not let those sabotaging thoughts and feelings of the debilitated state of life percolate a lot of the thoughts within our mind. By letting go of that, letting go of those feelings also that are sabotaging us, and bringing in more of these new emotions, bringing more of these new thoughts of the reality that you desire, it will allow for that shift. Because my understanding is that yes, the visualizations are very helpful and they can make a huge difference, but by also bringing in the actions that can facilitate the realization of those visualizations that you have are also needed. It's not like I'm just going to visualize and everything is just going to take care of itself. There is a little bit of effort that you need to make as well within the materialized life. So within your current reality, whatever small actions that you can take and try and bring in those emotions that will shift your state of being, that can be really helpful. Another key aspect about this is that repetition is key here. It's trying to recognize that you may not be able to immediately grasp onto those emotions, and there may be some days when you just struggle to feel into it, and that may be because your mind is tired or you have other things that are working on your mind. Just be kind to yourself, be patient with yourself, but be persistent in your action, and make sure that you get up the next day and keep trying, keep practicing this in order to allow for it to work. And like I said, I'm still very much in this process, so I'm learning along with you as I'm sharing with you some of my learnings from reading the book, as well as trying to experiment with the law of assumption. One of the realizations that I come across upon going through this process of the law of assumption, and this may not be relevant and may not resonate with everyone, but for those of you who are familiar with what the elites and the corporates are so intent on pushing forward this notion of metaverse, and it really struck a chord within me to understand how they would use the law of assumption within this immersive metaverse to try and control society to their benefit. And just observing how they already know about all these laws and have already looked at ways of manipulating humanity through these technological instruments and artificial ways of taking over the subconscious mind through use of tools such as the metaverse. So recognizing that how the subconscious mind works and how it can be programmed. Now the same thing may be happening when you watch a movie. You may be programming and hypnotizing yourself through this process of watching a movie. And with the metaverse, essentially what it becomes is it's a much more immersive process than just watching a movie. Because sometimes when you watch a movie, it's almost like you're entering the main character in the scene and you're feeling those emotions. But with the metaverse, it wants to take it a step further so that it shuts out the outside reality and you feel totally immersed within it. And essentially, this is how it could be used for malicious purposes in order to take control of humanity. Now, this is just something that I've stumbled upon as I was going through reading this book and trying to understand how I can use the law of assumption to try and improve health and wellness, but also trying to recognize what are these forces out there in the world trying to do by trying to push on the agenda of the metaverse. So hopefully some food for thought. Hopefully I didn't go too far off track. If any of this content resonates with you, please do like, share, and subscribe. And with that, I'll see you in my next video.